Good evening. I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm your host tonight. Aaron Biles has the night off. So welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We've got a really great episode for you tonight, as you well know. And first of all, we're going to be covering the news of the week, leading with the blowback from Governor Beshear's school mask mandate. Also, we'll be tackling Rand Paul's insider trading scandal. Also, we'll be joined by Nate with a special report from a GOP crazy town hall roadshow led by the state senator, Adrian Southworth, in a desperate effort to get Kentucky fired up about election security, AKA the big lie, right? Then also, we're going to give you a rogues gallery of the worst politicos of the moment before wrapping up with our action events calendar. And also our great guest tonight. We are so happy to have her with us. We like to call her Miss D, but actually her name is Ms. And I'm going to get this right, because if I get this right, I get an ice cream cone tonight. Okay, so, I'm going to get this right. Miss Dee Pregliasco. Yes, I got that right. Ice cream for me tonight and everybody else, but you're paying. So, but first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? And we know our Commonwealth has some work to do, but if you're going to beat back the tide of the bad policy, from partisan gerrymandering to ripping away power from our very, very great governor, if you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. It's easy. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and yes, we are hip and cool. You can reach us on IG as well. Wherever you spend your time on social media, make sure that you like and you share and comment on our content. It really helps the algorithms, and more people can see our shows. And that is so important for what we are trying to do collectively as Kentuckians. Also, if you like what you are hearing on Kernels of Truth, share out the show as much as you can. We greatly appreciate it. And maybe you're looking for an even better way to get involved. I see you out there. Yes, you want to get involved. Hit up our volunteer link and send us your information so that we can get your help for one of our organizing projects. Democracy is not a spectator sport, folks. We need you out of the stands and onto the field. But if you're not ready to exactly hit the streets or the phones, you can still support our efforts with a financial investment. We've got a goal of raising $1,500 for our current organizing project, and we're still less than 20% of the way there. So please consider making a donation right now. You could go hit us up at Loot. It's on your screen right now, and make a donation to support our campaign to turn Kentucky purple. So, out there to everyone, I know that you've got your signs ready and raring to go, just like myself. I know that the other guys here, that they've been trying their best to outdo me, but how about you outdo me for the great sign I had last week? Put your virtual sign in the comments. We'd really appreciate it. And you never know, I might choose one of your signs because I do need some help sometimes. So once again, I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones. I'm coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky, which is Jefferson County, and home of the Kentucky Derby here in Louisville. And my sign says today, I'm still gonna beat Ken and Doug. Watch this. Last week's sign, we still love Dr. Fauci. Okay, that's my sign tonight, and I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely.
What's your sign says? What's yours say, Doug?
Well, I know I can't beat you, Kimberly, so I'll just say I'm Doug Price from Harrison County, Kentucky, home of the Yankees Restaurant, in business since 1894. Here is my sign. Vote, be vocal, and vote.
VVV. I love it.
How about you, Ken?
It's my turn. I'm Ken Howell. Uh-oh. I wonder why this is not unmuting. It should be unmuted. Oh, hi, I'm live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the World Wide Web of live media production. I've written a little thing out, and I have this protest sign that, I put on some professional grade equipment. And I started out pretty high, but as protest signs go, this one is a tough one because we're in trouble. Pundits are spinning Afghanistan, and to be clear, I remember George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld selling us this war. They lied to get us into this war, and it's a rock and a hard place, and we're in a tough spot. And if anybody knows anything about it, it's Kimberly, but our environment is in dire straits. Human rights in this country are under assault, and COVID is coming back. And we're in trouble, according to experts, about COVID. And I'm getting angrier and angrier every week that I do the show. I'm reading more and more things and making less money and having less time and more anxiety, and the stuff swirls and swirls and swirls in my head. And I feel like it kind of makes me crazy. But since Trump and others have joined the far right, I think of this little poem, and this kind of affects me, and what it's what keeps me going, really. And it's upside down. It's when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So a call to action to everybody out there. Let's get going. We got a lot to do.
Thank you, Ken, so much. But I just want to say this. I won again. I'm the self-proclaimed winner. So let's move right along, and let's go into the news of the week.
Okay, we're going to
number one coming up with Doug.
Yes, I'm going to be talking our first story. As soon as Andy Beshear announced a mask mandate for all schools, the Kentucky GOP went absolutely bonkers. The superintendent of the Science Hill School District sent a voice message around to all his parents the night Governor Beshear announced that all schools must mask, calling the governor a liberal lunatic. The Gov was immediately threatened with impeachment, more on that later, and legal challenges were filed by our AG, Daniel Cameron, arguing that whether the rules are needed, the governor cannot go it alone and must develop rules with the State General Assembly, which of course currently is out of session. On Facebook by Representative Ryan Dotson. We'll talk about him later too. As of today, I will be seeking the impeachment of Governor Andy Beshear. Hey, Representative Dotson, email me. I can give you info on how to file for impeachment because I followed the last impeachment trial quite closely. The AG's legal challenge will probably be ruled as moot since the Kentucky Board of Education has unanimously passed a mask mandate for a period of 270 days. While the governor's action was only for 30 days, the state law emergency regulations is effective for 270. However, the board indicated they would call a special meeting and withdraw or amend the regulation based upon the changes and guidance from state and national public health officials. It is not the intent of this regulation to have students in masks any longer than is absolutely necessary, said Kentucky Commissioner of Education, Dr. Jason E. Glass. According to the KBE regulation, everyone inside a public school facility must wear a face covering over the nose and mouth while students are present. Prior to this meeting, the local superintendent's advisory council met and approved a motion to ask KBE to take no action on the matter. The LSAC is made up of 11 superintendents from across the Commonwealth. All of the counties represented are in the red zone related to COVID-19, as are 100 of the other Kentucky counties. Seems like maybe we have an ever-growing COVID-19 problem, and perhaps the KBE and Governor Beshear are working to protect all the people of the Commonwealth, even those who want to impeach him. Soon after the KBE action, the Legislative Research Commission announced that the Administrative Regulation Review Committee would meet on Tuesday, August the 17th to review mask mandates. The jurisdiction of the committee includes reviewing existing administrative regulations, recommend the amendment, of repeal, or enactment of statutes. The announcement indicated the matter is about the governor's actions as opposed to the actions of the KBE. I believe the KBE has the power to make these actions, and in my opinion, the Republican-led legislature is doing this in order to inflame the situation. The committee is co-chaired by my state senator, Steve West. I expect that he received his marching orders from the Senate President, Robert Stivers. There are 8 members on the committee, 6 Republicans and 2 Democrats. So the totally expected thing just happened at 3 p.m. this past Monday. A Republican lawmaker, Representative Lynn Belcher, pre-filed a bill that would, among other things, forbid state law, executive orders, or any other policy from requiring masks in public schools and some public school settings. Yesterday, when the Administrative Review Committee met, heard several individuals and groups. Generally, those in favor of the KDE mandate were masked, and those who were against the mandate were not masked. There were people standing in the back of the room who were obviously against masking, and a few protesters outside. The meeting was almost 4 hours long, and it can be watched by going to the LRC website. Several of the anti-maskers stated, "It is my constitutional right to not wear a mask." Apparently, their right to not wear a mask is more important than saving lives. I think the point of this meeting was a charade orchestrated by the Republican legislators to push back on anything Beshear related, political theater at its best. That is why I want to nominate several participants for what I call the Kentucky Oscars. At the start of the meeting, Co-Chair West announced that Senator Ralph Alvarado had been added to the committee. Alvarado wins my Best Actor nomination for trying to act like a prosecutor, asking pointed questions, which were adroitly handled by Dr. Jason Glass, the commissioner of KDE. Co-Chair Representative David Hale, he wins for the Best Sidestepper. He said he's pro-mask, pro-vaccine, but anti-Beshear. Republican Representative Randy Bridges was nominated for the Best Misdirection attempt when he accused Beshear of stacking the board with Democrats. Current law requires the legislature to approve appointments to KDE and requires that both major political parties have representation on the board. Lastly, this is my last line here. The Best Overall Performance Oscar goes to Dr. Jason Glass. All I can say is bravo, bravo. Would anybody else like to jump in on this?
I'm just going to say, Doug, to you that, if they have such a problem with masks, they wouldn't do very well anywhere else in the world, especially if they were in Afghanistan right now and a female and the Taliban saying that they must cover their face. So when we talk about this, it seems very selfish to me. And we are so divided on this mask situation. You know, sometimes when it gets like this, there's something else they're trying to distract us from, right? So I just think it's idiots as usual. It's just idiotic, and it's idiots every week. Every week you got these idiots. So that's what I'm gonna say. Bravo, bravo to you, Mr. Doug Price, for your thorough, always interesting information. What do you think, Ken?
Bashir versus Die House. I mean, who is the lunatic? The guy wanting to do everything to stop the spread and save lives of kids and this state, or the superintendent who is going out of his way to play science experiment on the children in Kentucky. I mean, or even what about Cameron versus Logic? I don't get this. So a business can choose not to sell a cake to a couple, same-sex couple getting married, or a company can line item veto healthcare options for their specifically female employees, but a company can't enforce vaccinations for their employees. I mean, an employee can quit. I'm not going to hire anybody that's not vaccinated, and a company can't have mask policies. It's infuriating. I don't get it, and it's infuriating.
Well, you guys know that I've had the breakthrough Delta variant COVID myself. I'm just getting over it. And even though you're vaccinated, I just have to do this little plug right here. You know, wear your mask. Wear your mask. I mean, I wear my mask all the time, and I'm still alive. I'm here. You know, you're not going to die by wearing your mask. Your air is not going to like give you all of this poisonous, I don't know. What do you say, Mr. Nate? But before that, I didn't get your sign, your protest sign, Mr. Nate Orshan.
My protest sign, well, I guess it would be that conspiracy theories, making the weak-minded feel like intellectuals since, they don't want you to know. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, snappy.
So what do you think about all of this? Do you think there's something else going on that, you know, everybody's just like, rah, 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 when it comes to this mask situation? Even people that we would call highly brilliant or intelligent, do you think there's something else going on that, you know, they tell you, look over here, but it's really something going on over there? What are your thoughts?
So a lot of commentators over the years have described the love of Donald Trump as being more and more like a cult, like the love of cult members for a cult leader. And one of the things, if you read at all about any of the cults, like from Jonestown to the Moonies to, you know, Hare Krishnas, they always, the leaders always keep coming up, sort of escalating, coming up with new things that you need to do to prove your loyalty to me, your true faith, you know. And the typical stuff is like it has to do with like sex, like, you know, oh, you can't have sex until I tell you to, or it has to be with me, or stuff like that. Or, you know, I'll make you go out to the street corner and sell flowers for me, or famously, I'll make you drink that Kool-Aid. So I think this is just sort of a part of that. Not that it's a cult per se, but I think it's the kind of behavior you would expect out of a cult. Like, no, you know, mask and take that vaccine, but no, listen to me, the leader. Only I alone know what is good for you, and what is good for you is no vaccine and no mask, you know. And it's not even that Trump is doing that. It's like the intermediate. It's like it's this cult corporation, right? So you've got the person on top, and then there's all this middle management, and it's really the middle management that's out there sort of beating the bushes, saying, you know, no, only the faithful will do what we and our dear leader, you know, instruct. So anyway, that's what I got. Back to you, Kimberly.
I believe it is a cult. I believe that if he was Jim Jones and he was passing out grape Kool-Aid, I think a lot of these people would actually drink it, knowing that they would be here no more. This is cultism. So I just want to tell everybody, wear your mask. What's it gonna hurt? They have cute masks too. Like, you can wear masks that match your outfits. But anyway, us ladies, we'll get together on that on another day. And some of you men need some help too. But we're gonna move right along to the next story. Yes. Sometimes the person that screams the loudest has the most to hide. And who would that be? Insider trading took down Martha Stewart, but will Rand Paul suffer a similar fate? Or will this story end up more like Kelly Loeffler, Bill Burr, or Dianne Feinstein, senators who were investigated for insider trading, but ultimately not punished or charged with any wrongdoing? The story is that Rand Paul's wife, after he received closed-door briefings on coronavirus, he purchased stock in Gilead Sciences, which makes antiviral drug treatments. Well, before the World Health Organization, you know them, the WHO, the WHO, labeled this a pandemic, 2 additional details were very damning. The stock sale report form was not filed for 16 months, feeling a bit like a cover-up. And this was the first direct stock purchase made by the pair, this husband and wife team, in over 10 years. They aren't day traders. This was a highly unusual move to go seek out this specific stock to purchase. I know that I think possibly it can be very, very, what's the word I want to use? Almost like a aphrodisiac, almost like a drug that draws you. Like somebody tells you, look, I know that tomorrow they're going to do X, Y, Z. Human nature, you might say, ooh, well, I might want to put some money on X, Y, Z. Although we know that's illegal. But when you are a U.S. senator, you have to have your nose clean. And if it takes a lot of Kleenex, it takes a lot of Kleenex. But your wife is doing dirt, you're doing dirt. He's always going out here acting like he's an MD and he's an optometrist. And we do respect all you optometrists out there. We love you and we know that you're the leaders of eye care. However, he's not a virologist. He's not an epidemiologist. And he just consistently does things over and over and over again. So now that Trump has endorsed him for re-election, will this actually mean, ladies and gentlemen, does this mean that they're going to give him a go pass as they do all of the Trumpsters? What say you on that, Doug?
Yeah, I don't know. But one thing about Rand Paul, do you really believe that someone who thinks he is so smart forgot to push a button to send that report in? It seems like Rand knows how to push others' buttons, including his neighbor and perhaps Dr. Fauci. My favorite excuse is the one where Mrs. Paul says, but I lost money, indicating it wasn't a big deal because I didn't make any money. I took a quick look at Rand Paul's 2018 financial documents as he filed as listed in the Open Secrets website. And it seems like he owns several rental properties, all valued at a max of $15,000, plus owns a piece of property in Destin, Florida with a maximum value of $250,000. According to this report, he doesn't owe money on his personal residence in Bowling Green. Sounds like I may need to do a DPIR on Rand's finances. Ken, you got anything to add?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like we should be afraid to talk about Rand Paul on Progress Kentucky's kernels of truth, because every episode that we have talked about Rand Paul, and the last, I think it's the last 4, maybe 5 episodes have been taken down by YouTube. So currently the last episode is still not up. And I believe it's just because even talking about Rand Paul is getting us censored, even though we don't agree with him. I agree with last week's guest. If you can watch this episode on Facebook and not YouTube with Dr. Kevin Kavanaugh, I will be uploading just that interview later today. But I agree with him. He said it was reprehensible what Paul is doing. And clearly, I don't understand what Rand Paul actually wants. He misfiled on his POTUS run as and now the insider trading stock issue. He doesn't believe in masks. He doesn't believe in vaccination. He doesn't believe in science. I mean, seriously. I mean, what does he believe in? I don't know. What does he believe in? What is this guy for?
Probably for himself and his wife, apparently. And, there's nothing wrong with a married couple being for and about themselves, but not at the expense of criminal activity or at the health or financial expense of everyone else. So, I mean, I think this right here it's bad. It's bad every week. Every week is bad. And you're right, Ken. We do get censored and kicked out, and we have to go through all of this appeals and all this crazy stuff. When he's the one telling the lies, we are the ones telling the truth. We are all Kentucky colonels, ladies and gentlemen. That is an honor bestowed to us by the governor of that time and that year that we became colonels of truth. We hold that very dear to our hearts, and we tell the truth. We're not going to tarnish being a Kentucky colonel. Everybody can't be a Kentucky colonel. So we're going to tell you the truth. And I know a really great truth teller, and that's Nate. I know he's getting ready to lay it out too.
Is this a request for commentary or a request for a story?
Yes, sir, please.
Which?
Yes.
Moving on. All right. So I'm glad to be back with my favorite people in the universe tonight to share something that I was able to observe with my own eyes and sort of wish I didn't, because what you see can't be unseen. So the cliche about a news story needs to be broken down into who, what, where, when, and if you're really good, how and why. So that's how I'm going to dive into my story this week about my state senator grabbing the baton and so proudly, leading the Bat Crap Bonkers Brigade, who is District 7 Senator Adrian Southworth, representing kind of a straight line of counties, starting with Gallatin to the north, and then Owen and Franklin, and then Anderson and Woodford side by side to the south. She was swept into office last year as part of the surge of Trump voters who provided strong electoral tailwinds for Republican candidates all over the bluegrass. The What is a series of what she calls Restore Election Integrity Town Halls. And she's co-hosting this with a guy named Steve Nipper, that's with a K, and he's billed as a cybersecurity expert, and John Schrock, who's billed as a grassroots coordinator. The where and the when. So according to their website at restore.vote, the where and when are 5 spots, mostly in the bluegrass, this month, August 2021. The site says they hit I'll never say this right, Hodgenville, Kentucky, and Greenville, Tennessee earlier this month. They're going to hit Owenton, Kentucky, tomorrow, August 19th, 2021, and theoretically Frankfort, Kentucky, my dear hometown, on the 31st. But what I'm going to be talking about is their stop that happened in Versailles in Woodford County just this past Monday, August 16th. I caught the first hour of their 2-hour gig. The how they're doing it, it's pretty much a PowerPoint presentation with a bunch of videos augmenting their talk. The why they're doing it, well, that's a whole reason I'm here tonight, folks. The what of the town hall. So the whole point of this presentation, led by Senator Southworth, is to try to instill or reinforce fear and skepticism of the nuts and bolts of our election process. Their target audience is not me or you or any of y'all progressive Kentuckians out there, but rather Kentuckians who are right-wing media consumers, conservative conspiracy lovers who have faith in the would-be fact, big air quotes here, fact that Trump's victory was stolen from him last year. This was brought home to me when they got to a slide with 3 questions that are, how many votes, who's behind fraud, and how is fraud done? I transcribed what was said because I took video and audio, but I didn't have time to prep it for the show. But hey, I got the receipts. So at this point, with this slide behind her, Senator Southworth says, some of the questions that you're thinking of might be on the screen, and I want to give you a little bit of a background. Steve's going to take us down a dark pathway to explain the history of this, because you have to know these things in order to come out of the end of the tunnel and figure out where we're going next. At that point, Steve Nipper looks out at his audience. It's about 75 or so white folks, the kind you'd see at Kroger, but very middle-aged and older, and only 2 of us wearing masks. And Nipper says, so we asked a question. What do you want out of this? Do you want to know how many votes Donald Trump won by? Really? Yes, there's many murmurs of agreement in the crowd. Who's behind the fraud? How is the fraud done? Perfect. You've come to the right place. So what do we have here? We have people who are starting with the conclusion, Trump really won in 2020, and then backfilling it in an explanation. And it can't be a simple thing because no. It has to be a convoluted, conspiratorial explanation worthy of a Rube Goldberg machine, because that's the only way to rationalize their faith that Trump and his loyal supporters were supposedly robbed. How conspiracy-minded is Senator Southworth and her 2 partners in propaganda? At one point, she's throwing shade at the 2008 election of Barack Obama. She goes, quote, was there election fraud? Well, there's all kinds of discussion about that, unquote, wink. Then she goes, quote, 2012, let's fast forward. Now you've got Mitt Romney, who actually owns a company that is a voting machine. I think she misspoke there. So the guy who owned a voting machine company is on the ballot. I mean, that sounds fake. Does that sound fake to anybody? So there we're in 2012, fast forwarding to 2016. We're still in the same exact spot. Now on the screen behind her, it shows this famous picture of Bush 1, Obama, Bush 2, and Clinton all standing side by side in the Oval Office. And she goes, all of these people, all part of this exact same system. Got that? So not only is there a system that somehow ensured that those 4 men got elected, but the fact that Mitt Romney, who, lost, but owned a voting machine company, it means what? What? If you're a person with a hint of critical thinking, it means that you are listening right now to a person who's bat crap bonkers! A person who is relying on innuendo and the flimsiest of relationships to try to convince you of a grand conspiracy. But say you already live on a diet of conspiracy. Well, welcome to the buffet. It's all you can eat, and best of all, it's free. So I do regret almost having to leave early, because I was really curious about how they were going to explain all the dark forces behind Trump's stolen, air quotes, victory. How those same dark forces would be so inept as to leave Senator Tom Cotton in Arkansas in office, or Senator John Cornyn in Texas, or shoot, worst of them all, Mitch McConnell. I mean, wait, you're telling me that this evil cabal has the wherewithal to cheat Donald Trump out of his rightful victory, but that same cabal can't just move some decimal points around right here in the Commonwealth and make it so Amy McGrath wins just by a nose. Oh, so sorry, Mitch. You fought so hard and honest, but that girl just done beat you by that much. Still watching? Oh, good. Now, here's some bonus bonkers from my senator. At one point earlier on, she goes, and this is almost a direct quote. I'm taking it from my notes, but I do also have it on audio. Save the receipts, folks. She goes, newspaper emailed me last week and said, we have questions for you. What advice do you have for your constituents for getting the vaccine? Then she tells the audience, last I checked, I don't give medical advice to my constituents. There's big applause, big, big, big. It's entirely political when they're asking medical advice from politicians, so I'm not doing this. Wait. So you're qualified enough to lead your constituents down a dark pathway, unquote, explaining would-be electoral fraud that's so complicated that it takes a 2-hour GD presentation for them to understand it properly. You are qualified enough to do that, but you're not qualified enough to tell your constituents to pay attention to what the CDC recommends? I don't give medical advice to my constituents. As Socrates might say, that, my fellow Athenians, is bat crap bonkers. Oh, you're still here. Bonus bonkers. After she gets done telling us that we shouldn't be looking to her for the bare minimum of medical advice for public safety that our own government recommends, Senator Southworth tells the audience, the big issue is on the screen. Elections shouldn't be political. Oh, right, that makes sense. Elections shouldn't be political, just the same way that sex shouldn't be sensual. And the bat crap bonkers brigade rolls on.
Wow. You called it, Nate. Oh my goodness, that was something. I just say fear mongering, and this is just another excuse to gerrymander, Yarmouth out of office. But I mean, Kimberly, Doug, do you guys have some thoughts on this? I mean,
yes, I would like to jump in. I want to first say to our guest tonight, she very well knows who Senator Southworth beat in the general election, and I think she probably knows that Senator Joe Gravis would have been right there in the forefront of trying to do the right thing with what she's going to talk to us about tonight. I did a little bit of research on a couple of these experts. Nipper of Independence graduated from Covington Catholic High School and earned his bachelor's degree in political science from Northern Kentucky University. His Facebook bio says he studied biology at NKU, so I'm not real sure whether he graduated or not. He was an underwriter with Cincinnati Financial from 1995 to 2004 and a project coordinator with Midland until 2005, and has worked as a project manager with Mercy Health Partners. He has previously served on the Erlanger City Council and the Kenton County Board of Adjustments. Until the end of January, he had served as the Chief of Staff for Lieutenant Governor Janine Hampton since 2015. And now he is a cybersecurity expert. Does he have Lindale on speed dial, or perhaps Sidney Powell? And a quick mention about the other gentleman that was there with her, John Schrock. He is a field coordinator with the John Birch Society and refers to himself as Pastor John. You can hire him to bring humor, fun, information, and motivation to your event. Lastly, Senator Southworth was in the audience at the LRC meeting we discussed earlier, unmasked, of course. That's my thoughts.
I think we should get to the guest, but I mean, can I just say that, like, John, what is his name, Schrock or whatever? Like, this guy has, I mean, when I saw this and pulled this off, this is his real face. I didn't create this graphic. He calls himself happily a verified harmful extremist. I feel like that is disturbing. Like he wants to harm Americans. I find it disturbing. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yes, especially, Ken, when we have Miss Pregliasco here of the Kentucky League of Women. It's all about ladies first. So I'm just going to say this one thing, that these people honestly believe these things in their heart. It's almost like that Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust, because here goes another friend of mine that actually is now upset with me because I got vaccinated. And they honestly believe that by the end of September, Trump will be reinstated as president. So we can't make this stuff up, right? So I want to just segue right into our and just on tippy-toed anticipation to talk to Ms. Pregliasco and see what's going on. She is the chair of the committee gerrymandering, redistricting chair for the Kentucky League of Women. So I'd like to introduce to you everyone, Ms. Dee Pregliasco. How are you doing, Ms. Dee? Nobody can hear me? Can you hear me?
No, she's on mute. We're working on it.
Okay, well, in the meantime and in between time, there's something that I would like to say as you all get the muting together. That's why it's so important for the infrastructure bill so that a lot of these things can take care of themselves.
Are we ready for?
Yes, ma'am, we are. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have you here tonight.
Thank
How
you
are
so
you doing, Ms. Dee?
Very good. And I wanted to be sure it's the Kentucky League of Women Voters. And we're 100, going on 101 years old. And we have kept the name Women Voters, even though we're open to all people age 16 and older, just because of the tradition of that. So I want to explain that. And as I've said earlier, we're nonpartisan. We don't support parties. We don't support candidates. But we are really pushing on this issue of redistricting. And most of the time, people know what you mean when you say gerrymandering, and everybody's ears, and eyes get big and ears are listening. What happens is redistricting happens every 10 years. I mean, that's in the US Constitution. And we know that the census data just came out, the specific data about counties and Kentucky. And if you saw the maps that were in all the papers and online, you know that in Kentucky, there's been a population shift to the I-75 and the I-65 corridors. Eastern Kentucky has lost population. Western Kentucky, with a few exceptions, has lost. And so they're going to have to redraw all the maps. And what gerrymandering is when they draw those maps to benefit the politicians, not to benefit the voters. But if they did it right, it would only benefit the voters, we the people, instead of just themselves. So what's going to happen? Our Kentucky Constitution provides that the legislators do the drawing. So we accept that. We would love to have an independent commission like some states have, but that would require an amendment to our Constitution. So what we have wanted to do and have pushed the last 2 years has been an advisory commission. So that would be great. But as somebody mentioned, Representative Gravis, he supported having these advisory commissions, but he in fact was defeated by Senator Southworth because he gave up his representative seat to run for the Senate. To have an advisory commission would just be that we would have public input and it would be an open process. Well, they're not going to do that. The bills didn't even get a hearing. So what we've been pushing is, okay, we're going to have what are called fair maps forums. And I'll be sure that you all get the list of the dates. And so we already have one scheduled in Lexington, which is October the 18th. There's one in Hopkinsville, September the 21st. There's going to be one in Lexington. I'm not quite sure of that date yet. There's going to be one in Northern Kentucky. And we're pushing for, there's going to be one at Eastern Kentucky University. We're pushing for some in Eastern Kentucky. And then I'm working on Bowling Green, Owensboro, and Paducah. Because we want people, the voters, people in a community, to be able to speak up and say, look, this doesn't work for us. You haven't paid any attention to us. You've just been protecting, your, in other words, incumbents is what they do. So what we did, the league, we bought the same technology, it's called Maptitude, that LRC uses, that the Legislative Research Commission uses. And we took the old data from 2010 and drew maps and didn't pay attention to the incumbents, and they look much better. What we're going to do now that we have the new data, the new 2020 data, we're going to draw the maps again. And what we're going to do is take these maps when we have these forums, and we're going to say to the people in the community, look at these maps. Do these work? Are they good? Are they not good? Do you like them, not like them? What's wrong with them? Let us know. And then we're going to redraw them if we need to. And let me give you a specific example that I think would illustrate it the best to help people understand. If you're familiar with Hopkinsville, and this affects Jefferson County too, but if you're familiar with Hopkinsville, Hopkinsville is a very compact city. In other words, it's not spread out. It doesn't have suburban sprawl. It's a compact city. They have, because of gerrymandering, they have 3 representatives, which means they could live in one district, they could go to school in another district, go to church in another district, work in another district, so that their power, the impact that they can have on their representatives and state government is lessened because they don't just have one representative. In Jefferson County, there's a senator who has a very small piece of southeast Jefferson County, and then he represents 4 rural counties that goes all the way over to eastern Kentucky, to Casey County, one of the poorest counties in the state. That just makes no sense. These people in southeast Jefferson County, their issues are way, way, way different than the people in Casey County. So that's the kind of thing that we're working on. So what we want people to do, and I'm glad to answer any questions you have. What we want people to do is to call their legislators, people all over the state. You all know people all over the state. Call your legislators, say, we want an open process, make it transparent. We don't want you to do this in the basement of the Capitol in a dark room, and don't tell us about the maps until you put it in front of the senators and representatives and say, okay, here they are, vote on them. We want it open, transparent, and we're not going to pay any attention to incumbents at all, but we want public input. Let a community talk about their community. So that's what we've been pushing. The voters should select their representatives rather than the representatives selecting the voters. Because what they know, and I think maybe you all have had Jim Wayne on. Have you had Jim Wayne, the former representative who retired? Has he been on your program? As you know from him,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, as you know from him, he would tell you, I mean, literally they go into precincts and they say, do you want this street? Do you want that street? Do you want this precinct? Who did these people vote for the last time? Now, I do have to say this, both parties all over the country have been bad actors with this, okay? And for a long time, Democrats did it in Kentucky. The last time it was done, the Republicans did the Senate and the Democrats did the House. Again, if there's an open process, a transparent process, we think it'll be better for everybody and that the voters get to choose. And I know I keep saying one last thing, but this happens every 10 years. If they don't get it right, if they don't do a good job, we can't change it. I mean, there was a lawsuit the last time that just kind of puts off the end game. It lasts for 10 years. And my new expression is, what happens in Frankfurt doesn't stay in Frankfurt. It affects all of us. It affects taxes, education, health, roads, schools, libraries, you name it. We're affected by what the people in Frankfurt do. So we want the voters to select the representatives, not their selecting us. So that's my spiel, but like I said, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I know that Doug had some questions for you, Ms. Dee.
Okay.
Okay. I was just thinking about this, and what you just said, it really makes a lot of sense. And the bad thing about it, nowadays, it seems like politicians who get elected with maybe 23% of the vote.
Right.
And then they think they've got what they're supposed to have. They go back and say, well, this is what the voters wanted. But that means that 70 whatever that is, 77% of the vote did not vote for, in some cases. That's not true in all cases. I know that earlier you guys developed a kind of a projected what the redistricting would happen if based on the previous census.
Right.
And if I remember, you want to explain a little bit process, because like in Jefferson County, there's a lot of people there, a lot of districts, and in the past it seems like they picked up, like you said, streets or whatever, and they're really not contiguous. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in Jefferson County, one of the examples is Middletown. Middletown's Main Street is split into districts. So there's Middletown, which is a community of interest, and it's split up. So that's an example in Jefferson County. In Scott County, Georgetown is split up. And then I already told you about Hopkinsville, which is split up. Now, they have to follow not only the Kentucky Constitution, they have to follow the Voting Rights Act, what's left of it. And part of that is that communities of interest and communities of color, minority communities, cannot be split up to divide them so that they don't get to elect, have a chance to elect who they want to. What you were talking about with the percentages is important. If you go back to the gubernatorial election before the last one, Governor Bevin was only elected by 16% of the eligible voters. In other words, in many ways, he was a minor, he was a minority governor, but it was because of his primary, and he only won it by 87 votes or something. What also happens is because they protect each other, protect their incumbents, then nobody runs against them. So they don't have good primaries. The primaries are not competitive. What I've said to the legislators that we've met with, all the competitors for both parties, all parties, should be competitive so we can get the best people. And then what happens is when they don't have any competition, then they think, oh, I've got a free ride. And then they don't compromise. It becomes the gridlock that we know that we have. Now, what's going on in Kentucky is one party is in control now. I mean, let's face it, they are going to make the decision. What I've been saying to them when we've talked to them is, you can be the good guys, do it right, do it right in the name of good government. And I hope that there's going to be some of that. I think that they are feeling, I don't think they feel necessarily any pressure, but they know we're out there and they know people are talking about it. So we've been giving presentations to people all over the state. And if you all know of any groups that you belong to or other groups, we do, sometimes I do 2 and 3 presentations a week. And these are, PowerPoint on Zoom because we've had all these COVID issues. I have given a few recently in person, but now with the Delta variant, we're probably going to go back strictly to Zoom, but that makes it easy. I've got one, next week. I've got several, and the ones that we have set up, the forums, we plan to do them in person, but we may have to, we just may have to do them on Zoom, depending on what happens. But you're absolutely right about people with few votes, win this primary, and then we're stuck. And somebody, one of the legislators said to me, well, my constituents elected me to do the redistricting. Well, it's his voters elected him, but what about all the other voters? I think that's what happens too. So I hope that helps.
That helps. And that's the reason behind my sign.
Right.
People have to vote. It's just, we don't vote. We don't think we can make change. And that's one of the things that Progress Kentucky is working on, trying to get more people to vote.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, let me just say one other thing with regard to voting. You're right. We need to be engaged. And part of our mission is to engage citizens to be more active and engaged, and so they vote. But we also have a push to have the restoration of voting rights, for former felons. And so we are pushing that. We have an active committee that's been working on that. And if anybody's of your people that are listening are interested in that, tell them to get in touch with us, and be sure and go to our website, lwvky.org, because there's all kinds of information on there about redistricting as well as voter rights restoration. So go ahead.
I was just going to say another example. I live in Harrison County. My state representative is from Pendleton County. Harrison and Pendleton County are, they're contiguous, but in order to pick up a few more voters, I'm just not sure exactly how that happened. My district has 2 or 3 streets in Georgetown. And you go from Harrison County into Bourbon County, and then you go into Scott County. I'm talking via the roadway.
Right.
And then that representative has, I don't know, 2 or 3 streets in Georgetown, Scott County. It's just,
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And of course, this is not easy, and it's not going to be easy to do this time because of all these population shifts. But you're right. And I know exactly what you're talking about because I know where Cynthiana is. I used to live in Paris and went to the doctor in Scott County. So part of it is, really, but again, if people can speak up about that, about what's going on, I think it would be important. And one of the things is that these lines should be drawn so people can easily get to their representative. One of the issues in Eastern Kentucky is there were all these ribbons, kind of, just sort of a long line of counties on top of one another. So people, if their representative was at the top, had, to travel to get there. I mean, yes, we have all this technology now, but still to get to meet with or to go to a town hall, it's not easy when they're all strung out like that. And when I gave a presentation in Hopkinsville, there were some people from Madisonville on the program, and come to find out they're dissatisfied with the way their districts were drawn for the same reason, because Madisonville is a pretty compact community also. So it's not going to be easy. There are going to be some hard decisions, particularly because Eastern Kentucky has lost as much population. If you saw the Courier today or yesterday, might have been today, but it could have been yesterday, they showed the counties that have gained the most and the counties that have lost. So it's not going to be easy. And that's part of why we bought the technology. So we produced these maps to show that it would be simpler if they had done it right the last time. And you can see those on our website. And as soon as our new maps get drawn, which should be hopefully by the middle of September, we'll put those new maps on our website also, and you'll be able to see them. And and again, we're going to put them out there. Some people may say, "Hey, this doesn't work for us," and we want to hear that. We want to know what doesn't work. One of the issues for Jefferson County is that we have large swaths of land. There's UPS and the airport, and then there's GE and there's Ford, which means that communities kind of they're not all together necessarily, and so that creates some issues. But we looked at highways. Should we divide communities that are divided by the Watterson? How should we look at it? Again, let people be a part of this process.
Do you think Kentucky suffers at all because it has so many counties, like 120 counties?
Oh. Yes, let me say this to you. I worked at the Crime Commission here in Louisville when I was in law school, and we were talking then about how Kentucky is held back because we have 120 counties. Think about what that costs. I mean, here we are, a poor county, and we've got 120 courthouses and 120 of this and 120 of that and 120 of that, and it's just and it's an old-fashioned thing because it was set up to say that you shouldn't have to ride more than a day to get to the courthouse back in the 1700s and 1800s. And that just doesn't, it doesn't work anymore. But I don't think that's going to change in my lifetime. But I think that's an issue. Under our state constitution, if they divide a county, they're not supposed to, but if they have to divide it when they redraw the lines because of the population numbers. And so people understand these districts have to be drawn so that they are less than 5% in regards to the population. In other words, the equalness. But once they divide a county, there's no limit as to how much it can be divided. So that's why Jefferson County shares representation with Bullitt and Hardin and, Shelby and Oldham and
just to sum it up, so is this a form, an extension of voter suppression? You do believe that?
Yes, because that's what gerrymandering does. It protects. What gerrymandering does is almost always protects the party in power or the incumbent, which means it is not protecting all of the voters. And so therefore it is a suppression of the vote. Let me give you an example. You can think about a state that's going to go one way or the other automatically. So for people in the other party, and this can work both ways, it's like, so what's my vote worth? It's not worth anything. And that, of course, then that gets us to the whole issue about the Electoral College, and that's a whole nother debate.
Exactly. So we just really appreciate all the work, and I know it's probably pretty long hours and everything that you have to do, but we so much appreciate everything that you're doing, Ms. Dee. We really do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your having us here. And again, you have other groups, other people that would like a presentation, we'll be glad to do it. That's what we're doing. This is
absolutely
my retirement job.
Can you just give us just a really short history of like where did the League of Women Voters come from, and was this were they at the forefront of the suffragist movement for women in Kentucky?
Yes. The League of Women Voters was actually formed in February of 1920. Okay, because the idea was if we're going to get the vote, we need to educate women about voting. Because keep in mind, we have some great stories of some of the suffragists and their mothers when they got the right to vote. They didn't even know where do we go? How do we do it? How do we register? And so, yes, the League of Women Voters began in 1920, and the one in Louisville began in November of 1920. So yes, it was an actual outgrowth of the suffragist movement that had taken 70 years to get women the right to vote. And then, of course, we've been fighting since then, of course, to get all women the right to vote and all people the right to vote, because we know what happened with Black voters. And so obviously not until the 65 Voting Rights Act in 64, where Black people, even though it had happened before with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, did they actually have some protection for their voting. But unfortunately, now we know there are all these legislators that are trying to do away with that and, have voter suppression again. So yes, gerrymandering is a form of voter suppression. And
I just have one really, really off the grid, and you don't have to answer this because okay. I am, but and it's pretty serious. But what about voting rights in the Middle East? Do you have any speculation for like how women can get more rights and what happened in Afghanistan over the last 20 years seems to be terrible. Or is terrible, and I was just wondering, do you know of any groups in anywhere in the Middle East that are pushing for rights like this?
Yes, and I don't remember the names right off the top of my head, but yes, there were groups in Afghanistan after we first got there that worked on that. There are women, obviously, in places like Saudi Arabia who are working on that. The biggest effort comes from educated women. And that was the big push in Afghanistan to educate the girls, educate the women which has now been going on for 20 years. So that you might have even seen on TV, there were some women who were protesting against the Taliban. And that wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. But that's because they're, so part of it is education. Education means change. I mean, that's what education is all about. I mean, that's why you get educated, to understand about change and to be changed yourself. And so that's what it's going to take, education of women. And for that matter, education of men too, when they see their women educated.
Absolutely. I feel like I feel progressive, but I honestly learn more every day, just by listening to people talk, because I mean, how else are we going to learn? I mean, listening.
Exactly.
I have a question I would like to, or a statement possibly, question and statement. So with the Kentucky League of Women Voters, I know at the time when it was established in the 1920 with the suffrage movement, of course, the iconic Susan B. Anthony, that to this day, and this is 2021, several African-American women feel leery of different groups that have the Susan B. Anthony attached to it. And the reason being is that there was this rumor, so to speak, that Susan B. Anthony was a racist. However, as you said, knowledge is power. And if you go back and you read, people will find out that Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass were very good friends. And Frederick Douglass said to Susan B. Anthony, hey, when you're getting all this stuff done, what about the Black women? And at that time, Susan B. Anthony was very honest with him and said that, maybe we can get my women pushed through, but there's just no way that we're going to be able to get Black women pushed through at that time. So how has the League evolved since those days with African-American women?
Right. Well, as you know, what happened after the Civil War and after Reconstruction, the Jim Crow laws took over in the South. And unfortunately, there were forms of them that went on that took place in the North also. So the League, our League, the League of Women Voters, has that part of its history that it's had to come to, sort of have a come to Jesus with about it. And in fact, this last year for our 100th anniversary here in Louisville, we had Dr. Carolyn Jefferson Jenkins be our speaker, and she's written a book, and she talked about her book about the African-American women and their history in the League. And obviously, because Jim Crow still lasted up to the 60s, there was still this slow changing. And you're right, part of the issue for some Southern women especially, and was that, well, if women get the right to vote, Black women get the right to vote. And they were still segregationists, they were still racist in that sense. So that's been a history we've had to deal with. And we have a whole push now, it's called DEI, diversity, inclusiveness, et cetera. And so we're working on that. Let me tell you about one more thing right quick. The 28th of August, the Women's Equality Day program will be at the Fraser. And our speaker, and hopefully we don't have to have this on Zoom, but our speaker is Carolyn Mazzalumi, who is an African-American woman from Cincinnati who has been telling the story of African-American peoples and women through her quilts. And she is our speaker. And also we will have Hannah Drake will end the program for us. So we've all been working on all of that. And, it's, again, we have some bad things in our history, like any organization, but we've really been working on it. And I would recommend that you read her book, Dr. Carolyn Jefferson Jenkins, about that. And then obviously, the newest biography of Frederick Douglass is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now, there has been a modern group that I think has taken Susan B. Anthony's name to be a very conservative group. So that might be what you're thinking of too. So she's not here to defend herself, but she did go, she went to jail though over voting. She voted even though it was against the law, and went to jail for it. So, okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dee.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate you coming on tonight.
All right.
And I mean,
You're
you
welcome.
are a wealth of information. And I think that I'm going to be there and I'll probably see you.
Okay.
And if it is a Zoom event, if you could please let us know so that we can
Okay.
let our listeners and viewers know about this great Women's Equality Day on the 28th of this month. And if it is in person, then you most definitely will see me there. And hopefully maybe you can send the information so that the viewers and listeners, plus myself, can know how to get tickets or what I need to do to be in attendance and also to meet you in person. How about that?
Good. Well, have Aaron Biles send me your email address. And then also you can go on the Fraser website to see it, and also on the League of Women Voters of Louisville website and the Metro Office for Women website. But if you get me your email, I'll send you the info. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ms.
You're
Dee. Have
welcome.
a great evening. Thank you for
All right.
joining us. We really
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all's work.
All right. Thank you.
So moving up, now that we have had that great interview with Miss Dee Pregliasco, yes, Dairy Queen, here I come tonight. Mr. Doug Price, I think you've got some information for us.
Yes, I do. We're talking about the worst politicals of the moment. And inspired by Rand Paul's straight up dangerous medical advice to ignore mask mandates, we then saw a tweet by a previous winner, Representative Bill Weasley. Oh, I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. It's Bill Wesley, but Weasley works too. Something from Joe Sonka posted this on a tweet, and Bill Wesley had written this: mandates for masks and vaccines. The House bills and Senate bills we passed the last session as law. This man that is in a governor's position and whoever is following him is breaking the law, trying to force people to wear a mask or to be forced to take a vaccine. The laws we passed protect Kentuckians, and we are going to fight back against any school, business, or any other that follows these foolish mandates. We had enough, and we will not abide by this any longer. I'm asking you not take this vaccine. I'm asking you to not wear these masks. If a public place wants you to wear the mask, simply take your business in another direction. This is one of our Republican legislators telling people, don't mask, don't vaccine. And now, what is it? Something like 90% of the people who are in the hospital are those who are unvaccinated. Another individual, Representative Dotson, he's the one that I've talked about earlier, said he would be seeking the impeachment of Governor Andy Beshear, just because Andy Beshear is trying to protect us. And this, on his Facebook page, as your state representative, I will stand strong against vaccine passports. This is a direct intrusion into people's health and well-being. The mayor of New York has already instituted this. You cannot go in a restaurant, bar, or venue of any kind without showing your vaccination card. What are we coming to? We're being herded like cattle to force this vaccination that has been proven fallible and many times deadly. Again, I'd like to see the information on that. I fault no one for taking it. My father and my son-in-law have taken it, and I support that decision, but you must clearly respect those who do not feel comfortable with taking this vaccine. We have been lied to by the CDC on many issues, and I, for one, do not trust them. I listen, I research, I hear conversations between professionals in the field, and then I make the best decision for myself. And then he says, I don't take the flu shot either, and I've been just fine. Just know I will solemnly stand in opposition to those who will force the vaccine on our people. God bless us all. And the last one I want to highlight is Lynn Belcher. He is also a Republican legislator. As I suspected, the governor couldn't restrain himself and now has mandated that all teachers, staff, students in K-12 schools, childcare, pre-kindergarten programs across Kentucky must wear a mask indoors. I hope that schools have classes outdoors. He doesn't seem to care about what parents want for their children. I'm a parent. I have 2 children. I'm 72 years old, so my children are older than a lot of people. So anyway, the governor's mandate is child abuse. And Paul, it's time for us to resist. They can't arrest all of us. That's my thoughts.
They are the politicos of the week and the week.
What a
So
week.
we've had a
What a
great
week.
show tonight. Huh?
I said,
What'd you
what a
say?
week.
The week. The week and the week.
Week.
Potato. But I will say this, we got a great action-packed calendar for you. So pull out your iPads, your pen, your paper, and get ready to jot some things down because there's some fun stuff going on that you are going to want to be involved in. First of all, tomorrow, Lexington and Louisville both will be hosting rallies for climate care, jobs, and justice. It's going to be happening tomorrow at 5:30 as part of a National Day of Action. Okay, so the link is right there on the screen for you. Climate rally in the Louisville is going to be 5:30 to 6:30, and it's going to be outside the SEIU Union Hall located at 4100 Churchman Avenue, right here where I am in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, 5:30 to 6:30 in Lexington, it's going to be inside the Julietta Market in the Greyline building. And that address is 101 West Loudon Avenue in Lexington. So there's going to be like an open garage
not to
door
interrupt you,
to the outside.
it's the home of Radio Lex. So that's our home. That's where we're home.
Okay, I mean, like Ken just wants to give a big shout out because it's in Lexington. I get it. So these events will feature guest speakers and ways to take action as Kentuckians call on members of Congress to pass bold, transformative investments in climate care, jobs, and justice. And guess what, folks? There's going to be a free food truck at the Louisville event and local vendor food stalls at the Lexington event. Oh my goodness, they mentioned food. I might have to step out. Please wear your mask, socially distance. Please, even if you're vaccinated, just go ahead on and do it, okay? And we could all have fun and do some things, okay? And if possible, folks are encouraged to bring small bags of produce or small plants for a leave one, take one exchange table at these events. But you know, if you don't have enough time, you forgot, don't worry about it. They got you. They're going to offer 30 cartons of fresh produce from black soil at each location to get the exchange table off to a great start. OMG, free food and produce.
We have so many tomatoes. I'm going to bring 100,000 tomatoes to this event.
Ken's going to bring 100,000 tomatoes that he is delusional about, but he might bring a few tomatoes. Now we can say a few.
Okay, yeah. No, not 100,000 tomatoes. But I'll bring some tomatoes. I'll make it a point to the Lexington one. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I might not have enough time. But anyway, these events are being organized by the Kentucky Just Transit Coalition, and that's a new collaboration that is working to win bold, transformative investments in climate justice and just transition. And the groups involved in this endeavor, some of my favorites right here include the KFTC, Hood to the Holler, Kentucky Student Environmental Coalition, Sunrise Movement in Kentucky, REACT, the IUE-CWA, and the NCFO SEIU. So also the 101st anniversary of passage of the 19th Amendment, which is the women's suffrage, is being celebrated in Frankfurt on Saturday, August the 21st. Celebrations, marches, films, tours, and lots of opportunities to learn about the fight to allow voting equality for men and women. The day's events can be found at, and you should see the website up on your screen. It would be kywscc.org/the event. Progress Kentucky has launched a petition to urge the Kentucky Board of Medical Licensure to investigate what we believe to be unethical medical advice from Dr. Rand Paul. If you're interested in what we have to say about that, you can find it online at the actionnetwork.org/. Now get this, ladies and gentlemen, between each word, there's going to be like that little slash, that little dash right there. It's going to be actionnetwork.org/petitions/Rand dash, okay, Paul dash must end his COVID lies mask mandates work.
And we should have
go to the really simple, you could just really go to the simple website right there, which is the bit.ly/ just simply investigate Dr. Paul.
We should have a link in the inside the
description box.
Description or descriptor. There is a link in
the
there.
description. You can get all of that information. So for our listeners, please go on our Facebook page, Progress Kentucky. All information will be right there for you, okay? Then also, Lex Do This. Lex Do This is a campaign to get the city of Lexington and surrounding communities vaccinated. If you want to join other community members for a neighborhood canvas, more information can be found at Lex Beat COVID or lexdothis.nationbuilder.com. So we look really forward to seeing you guys next week. I know that we didn't really talk a lot about Afghanistan tonight. We're pretty sure that you're getting a lot of good information, looking at the news, reading the papers. Always support your local papers. I myself personally, I've been looking at BBC and Al Jazeera English. Something that my daughter taught me, her being in the intelligence realm, told me that sometimes when things of this nature happens, sometimes you can get on the spot information from foreign journalists. So I've been looking at those and I've been seeing a lot of things. So, but there's a lot of things going on right here in Kentucky that are important to us Kentuckians as we live and breathe in this state right now. So
I was just going to say, I actually interviewed Joe Wilson. He was a diplomat, and his wife she was the spy that Dick Cheney outed, and they discussed about all this no yellow cake stuff in Iraq, years and years ago. And, even at the time, like I always felt very strongly that going to war because of September 11th was like we were goaded into it. I mean, I don't know I wasn't there. I mean, I watched it happen.
I honestly think that we did the right thing to go to Afghanistan. What they did as far as Iraq was, there was misinformation. This is a classic misinformation and a lot of stuff with Dick Cheney. However, with Afghanistan, we had to go there because that's where the most prominent cells were, the terrorist cells were. They were housed in Afghanistan, and we had to go over there and flush them out and to get Osama bin Laden, which we did underneath the great presidency of Barack Obama. Still in my heart, ladies and gentlemen, still in my heart. So maybe next time we can talk about how everybody hates Joe Biden all of a sudden, like everybody. But you know what? It's not about how you start. It's really about how you end. So let's just see how this plays out and how everything ends. And then we can make some type of call on Joe Biden. But there's so many other variables in that situation that most of us in America, we don't understand. And so we should have went over there, Ken.
Yeah, but it's been too long. 20 years. I mean, like 20 years, less than 20 days to take back the nation with a military that didn't fight back,
Well, allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, that was primarily a Dick Cheney situation. And just to be honest with you, who would want to actually take this on and actually stand by their decision? That's the one thing about a leader. You may not like every decision that they make, but as a leader, they make a decision, right or wrong, and they stand by it. And President Biden said he was the president of the United States. And he said, what? The buck stops here. So he is prepared to take all of this that's coming to him from foreign countries as well as domestically, Democrats and Republicans. So, we're just going to kind of see how this goes and see how it ends up. But staying over there that long, not so much. And believe me, I've talked to a lot of veterans and I've talked to active duty as well. And the consensus is the majority of them are glad that we got out of there. And they understand because as Americans, let's just be honest. And Doug, we could take 60 seconds and chime in on this, 60 seconds, but if you haven't been to Afghanistan, it's really hard to understand the people over there. They're very tribal. They have 5 different tribes. And honestly, they should be like 5 different countries, okay? And, if somebody said, hey, Kim, somebody's doing something to me, come on over here and be my backup. And y'all know I'm from Illinois, so, I can get down, right? So I'm like, okay, girl, I'm with you. And then all of a sudden she run. What would I look like just standing there beating the person up and the person that's really involved in the situation ran? No, I'm going home.
Yeah, it's clear enough that the politicians never understood this war. American politicians that never understood Afghanistan.
No, the people are so different. And as Americans, we need to get out of this savior mentality that we have. We go to countries that nobody asked us to come, and we try to change everything when nobody asked us to do that, and they don't know. My daughter was telling me that some of her interrogation friends had told her she was stationed at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan for a year. And it was told to her from interrogators that, I guess it's something they do, hold mirrors up. I don't know. I'm not an interrogator. I'm not in that field. Don't want to be. But she told me that was sometimes these people 40, 50, 60 years old. That was the first time they've ever completely seen their reflection ever in their life.
It's a different world. It's
Can
a
you
complete
even
different world.
imagine, like, you can maybe see yourself in a pond in the water, but are you really going to see yourself?
I can see myself now.
Okay, we see you too. Doug, you see him too, don't you? But
I see him. I see him. And let me just say something. I saw this on Facebook. So, I didn't check it and see if it's the truth or not. But somebody was making the point that the defense contractors are who benefited from us being in Afghanistan
Absolutely.
for 20 years.
That's some of it. And also, if you really are talking to people that were actually boots on the ground over there, not like, hey, I'm looking at TV or even Al Jazeera or BBC or whomever, but I mean, actually, they were over there. I'm going to tell you what they would tell you. It is, you can't even comprehend it. We're too westernized over here. You can't comprehend it. A friend of mine who retired as a major of the Marines had me look at a documentary on HBO called The Battle of Marjan, Marjah, The Battle for Marjan. And it was actually the Marines. It was a hostile city, town, village, whatever you want to call it, very hostile. And this is where the high level people were. And you saw in this what the Marines had to do. It was supposed to be a 2-3 hour mission that went on for days. We lost valuable soldiers in that. And they went, and when they got the Taliban out of there, they actually kind of rebuilt the village, built them a beautiful mosque, painted, everything was looking pretty. They had benches. Do you know these people? They weren't used to sitting on benches, like a regular park bench that you may just jog by or walk by. They weren't used to that. Like, what are we supposed to do with this? Do you know at the end of this documentary, these Afghan people were like, you all just came over here and made things worse. But we allowed you to come and raise your Afghan flag and get rid of the Taliban. They were like, hey, we don't mess with them. They don't mess with us. You all need to leave, go, bye. You're doing too much. So sometimes we have to learn how to not just go to another country and tell them how they need to be living unless there are dire and horrific humanitarian situations. But if a man, all he wants to do is buy himself a couple of goats and never have a mirror in his home and they're happy, then let them be. Let them be. But anyway, enough of Kimberly's soapbox tonight.
It's so many.
Passionate about that.
It's good stuff, Kimberly.
In me about that. But let's move on. Next week, Aaron Viles will be back, and you will not have a Kimberly rant. And when he sees this, he's going to be like, "Oh, I can't believe Kimberly was doing all that."
I personally love the Kimberly rant, and I completely agree. I mean, I was in my 20s in college when the war started. So, my friends went and fought, and your daughter is there now. I mean,
no, my daughter is actually in Doha, Qatar.
Well, yeah, she's serving now, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well,
she's
right
serving.
there is where they were doing the negotiations with the head leaders, and the big planes that you see on TV, they actually come through that base. They have to leave out of that base and then go to Afghanistan, or they're coming from Afghanistan and they have to stop at that base. And also all of the service members at that particular base, they were able to go into Doha. Doha is like the Alibaba of, Qatar, or like my daughter says, it's Qatar. So you know, they were able to go to the mall. They got Cheesecake Factory over there and McDonald's and everything, and Victoria's Secret. It's just like being at home. Now they cannot leave the base. They're on high security. So I'm not telling you anything that is classified, because my daughter told me many years ago, because I was asking her, like, what do you know about Barack and Michelle? Nothing. Yes, you do. You know something. She's like, if I did, I couldn't tell you. Why you couldn't tell me? Because if I told you anything, I have to kill you. And I said, look, I'm your mother. Quit playing like that, with that serious face. She's like, I'm not playing, Mom. If I told you something, I have to kill you. So I like being here, and I don't want my daughter to murder me. So I'm only telling you unclassified information that you can find out for yourself, because that's all she's going to tell me. But we're going to be back here next week. But I need to say this, okay? Our little disclaimer that we do each week. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, is affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, otherwise known as CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. More information can be found at progresskentucky.org about how to volunteer and support ongoing efforts. Production services and media content are provided by Couchfire Media. Couchfire Media ignites multi-camera, live stream, fiction narrative, nonfiction educational, informative, animation, and commercial video production content. For more information about Couchfire Media, it can be found at www.couchfiremedia.com. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this. The Jones Report is a weekly live, national, local talk and conversation, and let's not forget, international show that occurs every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And it is hosted by yours truly, and my great co-hosts are Mike Breuer and Betsy Foster, and of course, our producer and co-host, Mr. Ken Howe. You can reach him too. You can see how Ken and he's like my little brother. You know, I have to keep him in line. So the Jones Report radio program can be found on Facebook at the Jones Report radio program, or right here on Progress Kentucky on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And every week, we just have to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Nate, for the theme song that you heard. You can find more information and some more of his great music at natosongs.com. And hey, that's NATO. So this is WLXU 93.9 LPFM Radio Lexington, the voice of the people. The views expressed on Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth and our guests are not necessarily the views of Radio Lex or its board of directors. The views expressed on Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth are our own. If you miss our weekly show on Radio Lex, don't worry. Be happy, because we have live video cast content and source links that can be found on Facebook and YouTube. Audio podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and others by searching Progress Kentucky. Links to all of our media platforms can be found at progresskentucky.org. Hey, you guys, it has been so wonderful tonight. And Papa Bear, Mr. Aaron Viles, he hasn't been here tonight, so I hope we did a great job for him in his absence. But, you know, we couldn't do this show tonight if it were not for our great guest, Miss Dee Pregliasco. Yes, I got
Pregliasco.
it. Yes, exactly. That's what I said.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I do have to clarify. I feel like Papa Bear was Stephen Colbert's. That was Bill O'Reilly.
Oh, nothing like Bill O'Reilly. Oh, Stephen Colbert, that's my bear. But oh no, what's his name? No, we don't even know. I didn't hear that. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate you spending your evening with us. Share. Like. Please, this information needs to get out. Maybe there's a part of this that they need to see. Let them see it, because the more that we are educated, just like Miss Dee said, the more we know, the more we can understand, the more that we can do. And while you're at it this week, you know, I just want to just say to you, do something nice for somebody. You know, it doesn't cost you a dime to do something nice. Call a relative up, you know, go get groceries for somebody. You know, if you go to the line at McDonald's or Wendy's, if you'd like, and say, hey, I'm going to pay for the person in back of me, hoping that their meal is not $28, right? Did y'all hear about that on TikTok? Anyway, thank you, Dougie Fresh. That's what I call Mr. Doug Price. I love you, Ken. Thank you, Nate. And our special guest tonight, Miss Dee. And we always know that we love Erin Biles, the host of this great show. But you want to know something? I'm going to go ahead on and say it. We love you more, viewers and listeners. We love you more. So catch us here next week. Do something nice for somebody. And until then, same bat channel, 7 p.m. Wednesday. We'll see you next week.